We saw in the previous lesson why heat maps or risk matrices are a very poor tool to assess the risks of a project. The obvious alternative to a qualitative risk analysis then is quantitative risk analysis. Some think that sophisticated software and advanced statistical knowledge are required to successfully perform a quantitative risk analysis of a project. We are going to demonstrate in this video that doing this is not complicated at all and that it can be done completely with just Excel. The most popular tool for doing quantitative risk analysis is called Monte Carlo simulation. We're going to explain this tool with an example in Excel. The heart of Monte Carlo simulation is the ability to generate random numbers. In plain English, a random number is one that is generated by a process that cannot be reasonably predicted. Excel has a function that does this. It is the rand or random function. It is a volatile function. That is, each time Excel is recalculated, a random number between 0 and 1 will be generated. Notice how each time F9 is recalculated or keyed in, a new random number is generated that it is impossible to predict in advance. Each of the numbers generated has exactly the same probability of occurrence. Excel also has among its functions more than 10 statistical distributions. Let us explore the most popular of all, the normal distribution. To create this distribution, two parameters must be provided: the mean or average, named with the Greek letter mu, and the standard deviation, named with the Greek letter sigma. The standard deviation is a statistical measure that represents how far the points are on average from the mean value, or mu. For example, imagine any risk for which there is a previous historical data and for which both mu and sigma statistics can be reasonably calculated, respectively with the values of 300 as the average and 100 as the standard deviation. Although the normal distribution extends from minus infinity to plus infinity, we're going to focus on exploring the range between the mean minus 3 standard deviations, that is 300 minus 300, 3 times the standard deviation of 100, which will give us a minimum point of 0 to visualize. At the other extreme, we put 600, 300 mean plus 3 standard deviations of 100. In fact, there's an absolute statement for normal distributions where more than 99% of the data is concentrated on the mean plus minus 3 standard deviations in each direction. This is, by the way, where the name of quality methodology called Six Sigma is derived. With these elements, we are now ready to use the normal Excel distribution function. This distribution is called normDist. Note that it has 4 required parameters. The first parameter is the value for which you want to determine its associated probability. We make a reference here to B8, which contains any arbitrary value, in this case 250. Then we refer to the 2 parameters required by a normal distribution, respectively mu and sigma, the mean and the standard deviation. Finally, we define the type of calculation that we're going to perform. There are 2 ways to visualize a distribution function. If we want to observe it cumulatively, we write a true. If we want to observe it as a function of density, then we write false. Let us leave a true value for the function to calculate the cumulative probability up to 250. At the conclusion of this function, note that the calculated value is 31%. In other words, in a normal function of mean 300 and standard deviation of 100, there's a 31% probability that a value less than or equal to 250 is generated. If we change the value from 250 to 500, for example, the cumulative probability calculated by the function is 98%. That is, with the specified parameters, there would only be a 2% probability that values calculated would be exceeded by 500. When entering the value of 300, which is exactly the mean, the calculated probability is 50%. Because the normal distribution is symmetric, 50% of its probable values are less than its average, and thus 50% of its probable values are greater than this average. This is not necessarily the same in distributions that are not symmetric. There is also an Excel function that can generate random numbers within a narrow range. By defining a minimum and a maximum value, each cell recalculation generates, in this example, random numbers between 0 and 600. This is the random int function, which we are going to define here to generate random numbers between 0 and 600. This function makes use of the minimum and maximum display limits of the function that we defined earlier. Remember that the normal function generates numbers from -infinity to +infinity, but we will focus only on looking at the central range, generating numbers from the mean and up to 3 standard deviations in each direction. Every time I press F9 to recalculate, random numbers between 0 and 600 are generated, all with equal probability of occurrence. In this way, in the next cell, we define another normal distribution function for the randomly generated numbers in this range. In the next cell, B10, we now define another normal distribution function that generates the cumulative probability of that random number between ranges generated, taking into account the parameters of 300 as mean and 100 as standard deviation. For this function to generate a cumulative probability, we insert a true value in the fourth parameter required by it. Every time we enter recalculation, cell B9 will generate a random number between 0 and 600, and cell B10 will generate the corresponding normal accumulation up to that point. Each recalculation, or F9, corresponds in simulation jargon to one iteration. In essence, a simulation is a collection of many iterations. That is, we generate a random number, then we assign a probability according to a certain distribution, in this case a normal distribution, and we repeat the process many times. That is what has been done from line 15 and on. 500 numbers have been generated evenly separated between 0 and 600 in column A. In column B, each of these numbers is generated its corresponding normal function. This generates the cumulative graph that we see in the center. If we change the mean and standard deviation parameters, the graph changes on its horizontal axis, although it essentially maintains its normal distribution shape. If instead of looking at the normal functions calculated in a cumulative way, but rather to create a density curve, this would look like the bell curve that traditionally denotes the very popular normal distribution. Let's go back to the exercise parameters with mu equal to 300 and sigma equal to 100. Let's also return to a cumulative display. Starting from line 518, I have recreated the same exercise of generating many random numbers in the range between 0 and 600. But this time, they are not evenly spaced for the range. Rather, they are randomly generated by the random int function. The oscillating point in the right graph of simulation shows where such point would be positioned, accumulating its probability according to the normal distribution that we're using. Every time I recalculate, the point is positioned at another point in the probabilistic space. Two random samples, instead of just one, would start to oscillate like this through the accumulated space. The first 10 samples, also called iterations, begin to draw a cumulative curve, just like the one that theoretically begins to be drawn. With 100 iterations instead, the similarity in shape of the theoretical curve, the one on the left generated by uniformly spaced points, and the one on the right generated by randomly generated numbers in the specified range, is clear. Each recalculation, a set of 100 different iterations of the same, will be positioned along the curve. By increasing an order of magnitude between 100 and 1000, the curve simulated or created from random numbers practically equals the theoretical curve. We call the set of all these 100 or 1000 or any number of iterations a simulation. And this is called convergence. When the number of iterations is high enough that a curve iterated from random numbers closely matches a pre-existing theoretical curve, we say that the simulation process has converged. Many iterations converge in a simulation. In fact, It appears that graphically at least, greater graphical precision or convergence is not achieved when going from 1,000 recalculations or iterations to 10,000 iterations. There comes a time when adding more iterations does not add significantly to the accuracy of the model. An alternative way to determine how many iterations it takes to converge is to look at the statistics of interest. Cell B13 calculates the average generated with the specified number of iterations. With only 100 iterations, although the curve drawn on the right is already converged, it can be seen that when recalculating this mean, the absolute and percentage differences with respect to the theoretical mean are still significant. Notice how these variations decrease as you go from 100 to 1,000 iterations. Obviously, when going to 10,000 iterations, the relative variations in terms of the theoretical mean of the one that is being generated with this number of samples will be, in the vast majority of cases, less than 1%. This is the point of convergence that obviously requires defining how precise we want to be in our calculations. Now, you might ask yourself, why do I need to recreate thousands of iterations with random numbers, the shape of a curve, that I already know what its theoretical form is and a single function in Excel solves instantly? We will answer this in full in the next lesson. For now, suffice it to say that while this is true, in practice, model construction always requires mathematical operations between various distributions. For example, in the case that we will see, the quantification of a risk is essentially the multiplication of a distribution of a probability or frequency by a distribution of severity or impact. There will not necessarily be a theoretical mathematical form for the multiplication of both variables. When we add up all the risks, which in turn are the product of frequency multiplied by severity, we also do not have a theoretical form for such a sum. Therefore, the model must be built iteratively. That is, by means of iterations that take random numbers, combine them in a simulation, and generate mathematical operations of combined output results. This is what we will see in the next lesson.